Why are the Green Bay Packers stacking draft picks in 2027? I think I have a theory. Alright guys, listen up. I have a theory, okay? And it's not the most brilliant idea I've ever had, and it might be totally off base, but I want to hear what you guys think. What if the Green Bay Packers are trying to trade back into the first round in 2027? This is just my theory, right? But let's think about it for a minute. They're getting all these comp picks for losing Malik Willis, for losing Quay Walker, etc., Rasheed Walker, whatever. They're losing a bunch of guys. Some of them are getting them picks, some of them aren't. But they're getting a third, a fourth, a fifth, and a sixth in addition to what they already have next year. That's 11 total they're set to have. And the way that Brian Gutekunst is talking, it sounds like he wants even more, right? And he says he wants 20. I don't know how many he'll actually end up with. But at this point, there's a lot of things that are starting to come together in my head. And I think I mentioned it in my last video. The way that things are going, I don't think the Packers are going to be making any player trades giving up draft capital in 2027. It sounds like they're trying to stack as many picks as they can, right? Brian really values the 2027 draft, and I understand the draft class is going to be super talented, and those things are obvious to everybody, and that's probably the main reason why Brian wants all those picks, right? But, part of me wonders, how hard was it for Brian to not have a pick in the first round for the first time in his career this year? And, he talked about how it was going to be tough for him to be patient for 52 picks and not try to get up in there somehow. I'm wondering, having 11 next year, maybe more, I'm afraid of what that might mean for this team. I don't know. If we start to fall out of contention or the team's not coming together, maybe he'll start dealing players for picks. It's certainly a possibility. But, I'm wondering, is there any chance that he wants to maybe get back in the mix in round one? I don't know where they'll end up at the end of round two, but that's the one thing about next year's draft is they don't have a pick in the first round. Okay. Now I'm starting to think, is it possible? I think it is. You have all this extra capital. You got the second round, but then you got the 2/3 as long as Malik Willis plays a decent number of snaps. You got the 2/4, the 2/5, the 2/6. They're going to have opportunity. And, part of me wonders if that's the case. And that's just an intriguing thought I had, but, I still think it's possible. Like I said, what does that mean for if they feel like they need another piece coming into the trade deadline? I don't think they're going to be making that move, guys. That's another thing that I guess wouldn't be a super hot take, but I don't think they're going to be making any trades where they'll have to give up a player. Now, referencing back to my previous video, at the quarterback position, if they don't feel like they have they have their guy for the QB2 spot between Desmond Ridder and Kyle McCord and Kyron Drones, this happened when they traded for Malik Willis, right? They didn't feel like the one that they had drafted and the one that they had, they didn't feel like the two were good enough, so they went out and traded for Malik Willis. That situation, to me, is in play this year because the guys that they have are not spectacular. Malik Willis was the best backup quarterback in the whole game of football. And we don't have him anymore because he's now getting paid tons of money to start in Miami. Okay. Now they're presented with a similar situation. I don't know how willing they're going to be to make that sort of move if it needs to be done. Will Brian make the move? That's the question. This draft class is super important to him, and I think he thinks it's important to the team's future. He's clearly, obviously, they've been extended, LaFleur's been extended, they're going to be here, and it's set to be that way right now, right? All these things are coming into my head, and it has ripple effects. Could they be just trying to stack picks for next year, or could they be trying to make a big move in the first round? It seems like they've really, apart from, I really feel like the backup quarterback, it's not settled, but across the rest of the board, it feels like the roster is pretty locked in, and they've got guys that they plan on keeping, and they're extending guys. I think they're starting to really establish the roster beyond, just the top 20, the top 30 guys. I feel like they're really getting a good job of making that whole 53-man roster start to be mapped out in the best way that they can and try to limit some of the craziness that happens throughout off seasons where you're losing guys like this year where they lost all these free agents. I think they're starting to develop their roster a little bit so that they have a legit core of guys. So that's my whole point in saying that is maybe they don't need 11 draft picks, and maybe they might just make a big move and try to splash back into round one. Let me know what you guys think. God bless the Green Bay Packers. And go Pack, go.